Welcome on behalf of the Theosophical Society Point Loma in the second evening of this series, Evolution, One Joint Path of Inner Growth, with tonight's topic, Technology and the Future of Mankind. My name is Erwin Bomas and I will present tonight's topic. And as you are used to, next week we have our study about it. So, Technology and the Future of Humanity. I think a very topical subject that is on many people's minds at the moment. And you only have to look at the average science fiction movie to see that expectations about the role of technology in the future are great. And you see spaceships, smart robots, long-distance communication, or even materialization. Just think of the famous quote, "Beam me up, Scotty," the command used by the captain of the Starship Enterprise to be transported to and from his spaceship. Now, not only are expectations high, a lot of technology from the science fiction movies is actually now reality. There are smart robots, there is remote communication with images and moving images on small screens, and we are already making the first space voyages. But one can wonder if technological progress also means progress in our human evolution. What does universal wisdom say about the future of humanity and the role of technology in it? It is funny that if you look at the science fiction pictures, how much technology has a central role. And actually in the last 75 years or so, that has hardly changed in science fiction. The science fiction movies and literature is full of advanced technical gadgets, but the interesting thing is that human beings remain virtually the same, hardly distinguishable in mentality from the average humanity today. Take for example how mankind deals with future civilizations as in a movie as Avatar. So if we paint an ideal picture at all, it is mostly of the alien community, in which humankind does not play such a pretty part. We say, in short, it is more or less lack of imagination about the future of our own mentality. Because Theosophy does give much more insight into that future, as we are about to see. Like you're used to, we will divide this evening into three parts. First, the question, what is the future of humanity? Then, what is technology? And third, we combine the two together and come up with the theme Technology and the Future of Humanity. In the first part, we will repeat some key thoughts from last lecture with some additional thoughts. The second part is a little longer since that is our main topic and has not been covered before in the previous lecture. And the third part is a bit shorter again. Now after each part we have a short break of 3 minutes and time for your questions, so do not hesitate to ask them. And during the short breaks there is of course plenty opportunity to go into the questions, but you can also ask them in between via the chat on YouTube or via questions@blavatskyhouse.org. Well, let me start by repeating some essential key ideas from the previous lecture. First, that evolution is the progressive, self-directed development of essentially boundless consciousness. The unfolding of the inner faculties resulting in the transformation of the outer body. So it's consciousness that evolves and the outer body that transforms as an effect of that. And Bauke explained that in his lecture 2 weeks ago with many examples. The second key thought is that evolution is an infinite cyclic process, because life is essentially boundless and manifests cyclically. So evolution is actually never finished. We can always progress, unfold more of the inner boundless capabilities, life after life after life. And the third, evolution occurs through cooperation of consciousnesses of different quality, through emanation and the hierarchical structure of life within life. And those who follow us longer see in these three key thoughts on evolution the reflection of the three fundamental propositions of the Theosophia. First, boundlessness. Second, cyclicity. And third, the fundamental identity of all life. So what does this cyclical evolution of man roughly look like? Bouke showed the following diagram to explain it further. It shows the evolution from a spiritually unself-conscious God spark or divine spark to a spiritually self-conscious divine being or God, in all with all different steps and degrees. And we emphasize that we speak of the monad, the spark of eternity or center of consciousness, that in its essence is boundless. And the evolution in the human kingdom on this planet Earth thus is just one stage of many. During one lifetime of this planet Earth, or embodiment, the monad goes through one of the kingdoms of nature, whether plant, animal or human, and can basically progress or evolve through all the steps towards relative perfection in that kingdom. So it is the monad that evolves. As they say, a stone becomes a plant becomes an animal becomes a human a god, and then is meant not the form, but the monad, the consciousness, the center of consciousness behind going through all these different forms in nature. In our evolution in this human kingdom, we are focused on developing the universal thinking principle. We, as human beings, are thinkers. We are in the stage of evolution to develop the complete faculty of thinking or intelligence. And we do not refer to intellectual capacity solely, because the thinking principle is much wider and encompasses feeling, desire, and also wisdom. The evolutionary stage in this human kingdom during the 4,320,000,000 years of one embodiment of planet Earth encompasses 7 schools of life. In the picture shown by these 7 circles. And each of these schools take hundreds of millions of years. And you can also say that each school of life itself consists again of 7 stages or grades or classes. If we look at the whole evolution, then currently as humanity we are now in the 4th school of life. And as I said, only this 4th school comprises about 700 million of years. Now if we zoom in on that some more, we can see these 7 stages or grades within that 4th school. And the average person is in this 4th school of life characterized by the principle kama or desire. And we see that in this 4th school of life there are these 7 grades, and the average human being is now in the 5th grade or class characterized by the intellect, the manas. So the manas of kama, the manas of the intellectual sub-principle of the desire principle. And if we enlarge this 5th circle, which is in this 4th red circle, if we enlarge that 5th circle, we can again see 7 stages. And these 7 phases are also lasting millions of years. And the average person is now in the, you could say, the 4th semester, so to say, of this 5th grade of this 4th school of life. And this 4th semester is again characterized by the principle desire or kama. So you can see that the average humanity is in the 4th school, characterized by desire, the 5th grade, characterized by intellect, and the 4th semester, and then almost halfway, the 4th semester also characterized by desire. Now halfway through in our evolution are the most critical stages, because then there is the balance between spiritual and material direction. Actually, the first, you could say, 3.5 stages of each cycle are more material directed, towards the evolution of the material, the vehicular part. And then there is the switch, and the vehicular part becomes less important, and we are more directed towards a spiritual evolution, spiritual development. Now the biggest critical stage we have already passed in our whole evolution, because we already passed the halfway point of this 4th school. We already passed the 4th grade of the 4th school. Well, we are not yet halfway through the 5th grade of this 4th school, and also not yet halfway through the 4th semester of that. So we will have more critical phases coming in the future. And specifically, one really big one is in the 5th school of life. We are now in the 4th school, but the 5th school, that's one of these larger cycles of 700 million of years. There we also have this important critical phase. So the average, you could say, desire, intellect, desire mentality is the characteristic mentality, and which is also to keep in mind if we talk about technology, which is our subject later in this lecture. So we are in this 4th school of life, and in total there are 7 characteristics. I already explained the 4th school of life is characterized by desire. Then the 5th school will be characterized by the thinking principle, the principle of intelligence. And the 6th school will be characterized by the wisdom or the enlightenment principle. Now you could say, what do you mean by the thinking principle starting in the 5th school? We already think, do we? Well, actually, consciously we only think sparsely. Most of the time we see that it is desire that guides us. And sometimes this is instinctively, sometimes this is more consciously. Let's think about all the results that we have, or goals in life, or other desires. Those are all, aspects of desire. And you see that our thinking is actually driven by these results, these goals that we have in our country, in our companies we work for, in our daily life, the things that we train for instance. And it's really something else when thinking in itself directs desire. How do we know this? Because there are, as in every group, forerunners among human beings who are already a whole school ahead of us. So-called 5th rounders. We call these 7 schools of life also rounds in Theosophical literature. So there are one complete school ahead of us, which would still take the average humanity maybe even hundreds of millions of years to get to that stage of evolution. So these human beings, they gathered wisdom far quicker than the average person did. They acted accordingly, and so they also evolved in an accelerated way. And in our theosophical literature, there are examples given such as persons like the wise Plato or Confucius, but also a composer like Beethoven. Great thinkers who also achieved much, but mainly as an outgrowth of their universal ideals and ideas, you could say. And of course, not all these 5th rounders are on the same level. Some are far advanced in this fifth round, and some just are starting this fifth round. Because, like in every group that undergoes some process, that takes a particular journey or studies, like in a school or in a grade or a class, there are always forerunners and laggards. Now, if we look at humanity in total, we can discern different degrees of human evolution in consciousness. From instinctive, or even so-called soulless being, spiritually dormant, to spiritually completely awakened. So let's start from the top. So there we have the so-called Manusha Buddhas in Buddhism, Manusha meaning human, and these are the very, very rare semi-divine human beings. Actually, sixth rounders who are completely spiritually awakened. But these are really extremely rare. Actually, there has only been one example. I will get to that later. Then we have what we also call Theosophy the Mahatmas, or the teachers, the great teachers of humanity, human bodhisattvas, who are advanced fifth rounders, unselfish, with a very strong sense of oneness, who are spiritually awakened. Then there are the true humanitarians, the great philosophers, great artists, great leaders of men, idealists, and sometimes these are also chelas or lay chelas, meaning they are pupils of these Mahatmas, these brothers, these teachers of mankind. And they are mostly fifth rounders, unselfish, with a strong sense of oneness, and you could say spiritually half awakened. Then we have the above average human being, an advanced fourth rounder with an intuitive sense of oneness. You could recognize these as seekers for truth, who are actually starting their spiritual awakening. Now, the average human being is a fourth rounder, and these are the largest. This is the largest group, the peloton, you would say, if we say it in cycling. And they are still very much attached to the illusion of outer life, and you could say spiritually dormant, only sparsely a bit, flashes of awakening. And then you have the last group, you could say more or less selfish human beings, who are either instinctively materially oriented, we call soulless beings, or even consciously materially oriented, which are called lost souls in Theosophy. So you see, on average, humans are still spiritually dormant and only sporadically ensouled or inspirited or spiritually awakened. And that means that there is much, much more potential in us as humans in our current cyclic evolution. And it's very important to repeat one of the statements of one of our teachers, that one day each one of us will become a Buddha. And we can already take the example of the first sages that have appeared. And although these are still rare, these wise people can show us the potential that is actually latent in all of us. I already said that Theosophy even speaks of a sixth rounder already, someone who has evolved, well, two complete schools of life, further than us, more evolved than us. And this is so rare that there actually only one example is mentioned, which is Gautama the Buddha, a being so exalted that he made the Buddhi, the enlightenment or wisdom principle, as the most prominent in himself active. A true Buddha among men, so very rare that it is actually a mystery. And in the next series, Herman Vermeulen will no doubt say more about that in his series on the hierarchy of compassion. Excuse me. So just to summarize what we can now conclude about this short intro about the future of human evolution. First of all, that our evolution proceeds in stages, with cycles within cycles, in which successively different aspects are dominant. That each cycle has a critical point where there is this change from material orientation to spiritual orientation. And humanity is now in such a critical sub-state. And last, that the future of humanity is characterized by a growth in aspiration, in intellect and in wisdom. Okay, that's it for this first part. I'd like to have a pause now for 3 minutes, which gives you the opportunity to ask your questions and or pose your questions, and then we can hopefully answer them after the break. See you in 3 minutes.